Good morning.
Good morning. Don't have too many lights on in here, but yeah. I was looking at the Dunn County Ag Summit next Friday. It's the 26th of February. Are legislators going to be around, do you think? Or is that a week before the session?
Yeah, I think they largely are back in town and working. I'm going to Salem this afternoon for some in-person meetings with a couple of senators. So I think they are kind of back in the saddle, so to speak.
Well,
Oh,
so
what a perfect one.
back in the saddle. I'm
Yep.
still interested in sitting down with Boquist for SIEC, and I texted him during a video call he was on with me, and he said he'd call me someday, and then he never has.
Sounds like Brian.
Well, which
Yeah.
is fine, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of my things to do. So maybe next Friday I'll show up down there. Maybe we'll communicate about that. I'll just let you know.
Yeah, I can chat with Brian. I see him fairly frequently. I'm now in his district, but I think this is his last year. He's filed to run for reelection, but I don't think he's actually going to follow through with it. So former state Senator Bruce Starr has already filed to run in the primary and is expected to take that seat at some point.
I see. Okay.
We can
Well,
only hope.
Yeah,
as I say, he's been on some of the joint meetings with me, so I'd still like to talk to him to understand what it
Yeah.
looks like from his
Good
point
guy.
of view.
Yeah, the LGAC meeting is actually next Friday too, next Friday
Oh,
morning.
yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll see what the drive is like or projected to be.
Should be warmed up by then. That's what
Oh.
the news said.
People,
We'll see.
people haven't had their power for 6 days over there that I'm Facebook friends. I'm like 6 days. Oh my gosh. Like
Yeah,
why is it so bad?
that's surprising to me too. But I think the winds in parts of Portland were a lot higher than elsewhere. So I think it was a combination of
Oh, this is
ice.
Springfield people.
Oh yeah, Eugene, Springfield too. Yeah, I've got a friend who's been stuck on his hill for 7 days. So, well, although I think it's warmed up there over the last 24 hours.
We were back to 15 this morning. I was like, whoa.
Hopefully it's snowing. We need snow. Snow in the Cascades. You guys had freezing rain again, right?
Yes. Oh, that was special.
Yeah.
It even gets on my floorboards that are retractable. I opened the door to step on them and they are totally covered with ice. So I was shocked. Yeah, what is it? We have like 60 inches, 80 inches, something like Hoodoo or Mount Bachelor Hoodoo.
Is that one of those first world problems? Ice on your retractable floorboards.
You're wearing heels. It's a really big
Oh
problem.
yeah, it could be dangerous, but I just
I
digesting that
know.
concept.
I know. Well, no, I have 7 dozen roses in my house for the table tonight at the Redmond Chamber event.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and Bob, anyway, and they're trying to tell me that they've sanded the roads in Redmond because actually the state roads have been fabulous. It's been when you drove into Redmond on Sunday, they were like a little dicey, Tuesday dicey. Yeah, so let's hope they're good. Yes, I know. Thank you, Tony, for reminding me.
It's just a funny concept. Yep.
No, you don't know. This morning I have to take Bran out to my horses
Yeah.
and anyway, they are now so spoiled. They love their Bran every morning. They're like, where's our breakfast, Mom? Ooh, so is anybody joining us or is it just going to be the three of us?
Hi, Commissioner. This is Jen. I think we have most people on right now. I see all commissioners on and most department heads. So I think we can go ahead and get started if you want to kick us off.
Oh, please.
Three
Yes.
people. Yep.
It's 8:01 and we need to get going. So yes, welcome. And Jen, can we have everybody identify themselves so we know who's in the room? Or on Zoom? Because on my screen, I only see Doug you and I know Tony's here.
Sure, we can go around the horn. Why don't we start with the commissioners? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yep, Commissioner Tony DeBonne. Good morning, everyone.
Commissioner Chang. I didn't hear that. I saw you talking, but I didn't hear you. No. Well, while he works on his volume, we'll continue. Doug? You want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, Doug Riggs, NW Policy, and here on behalf of the county.
Great. I'm just going to go across my screen. Next, I see Kevin.
Hi, good morning. Kevin Moriarty, County Forester.
Dave,
Dave Doyle, County Legal.
Whitney. Can't hear you, Whitney.
How's this?
Better.
Okay, Whitney Hale, Deputy County Administrator.
Great. Janice.
Good morning, Janice Verso, Health Services Director.
Thank you. Nick.
Nick Lilac, County Administrator, and just for everybody's benefit, we can see probably 25 people on, Commissioner, just so you're aware.
Okay, so why isn't it showing up on my screen then?
It could be your view. If you go to the top right corner of your view and click on gallery.
Okay,
Or participants kind of puts the list on the side too.
Is that better?
okay. Now I can see 7 people. Good, thank you.
Do you want to keep going around the room?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have that much time, I take it. If there are actually 25 people online, that's great. And just remember, it isn't 7 a.m. like 2019, it's 8:02. Commissioner updates. Commissioner DeBonne, do you have anything?
Just talking before this, maybe next Friday, go to Salem. So look for opportunities. I was mentioning this to Doug Riggs just now. Senator Boquist is on one of the committees of the SIEC with me. Also Dunn Kearney Ag Powwow or whatever they call it, which I attended last year, agriculture. So yeah, I'm just thinking maybe next Friday go to Salem.
Yes, and I had my LGAC, so I may be going to if the roads have actually changed. Commissioner Chang, did you get your sound figured out?
He just texted switching devices, so.
Okay. All right. Okay, so
I guess one more thing. Yeah. So on the policy side, Measure 110 and housing, that's the focal areas for what I want to advocate for in Salem this time. Measure 110 reforms and housing production.
housing, yes, I just heard that we sold 4.5 million homes in the United States last year. It was the least since 1995, the very least. So, it's a national issue, and of course, we're really short here. And then Measure 110, there's somebody that's now involved a lot who worked in the Clinton, Obama, and Bush administrations. And his article, he's the one who wrote the article in the Wall Street, and he actually had something that was recently published about Oregon and our Measure 110. So I'm trying to follow and see what that man is saying for our state, because the numbers are horrific. Is Commissioner Chang available? Okay. Doug, do you want to update us on where we're at?
Yeah, I'll take it away. I'll give you three different categories. The first category is kind of where we are at this point in time. Second category is what to expect, and then the third category we'll get to is what we as the county are going to be tracking, and that's where we need a lot of input from all of you and the department heads and the commissioners. So on that first area, we are 17 days until the start of this short session. As a reminder, this is a short 35-day session. So 17 days from now, on February 5th, they'll come into the building. They'll spend the first day organizing themselves, and then they'll be off and running. Many of the bills they will consider, and remember that in a short session, they're limited to the number of bills they can introduce. So we'll probably see about 320 to 350 bills, maybe a handful more, depending on how many come out of committees. But many of those LCs were published with an LC number, but not a bill number this last week during legislative days. So we've been trying to go through the individual committee web pages and put those down on paper. And what you got from Jen here a day or two ago is kind of a first start at that list, mostly focused on the health and behavioral health and human services areas, but we're going to add to that. And then the third thing I'll say in the first category is that while there will be significant leadership changes, there will be a change at speaker, there'll be a change possibly at Ways and Means co-chair. Those changes will not take place until the very end of the session or after the session. So we'll be facing the same Senate president, the same speaker, same Ways and Means co-chair, as far as we can tell, all the way through March 10th, which is the last day. So that's the first category. The second thing I'd say just really quickly is that I think there are going to be two themes of this session. The first theme is going to be, as Commissioner DeBonne mentioned, Ballot Measure 110. I think that will be the overarching discussion. I don't think that the sides will end up lining up perfectly. Republicans, Democrats will end up lining up perfectly. But the proposals coming out of Representative Krupp and Senator Lieber's Committee on Addictions are more similar to the Ballot Measure 110 reform proposals that we'd seen in the past than I expected. So the devil's in the details. We'll see if they can work out the details. The second big area of focus, as Commissioner DeBonne mentioned, is going to be housing and homelessness. There are going to be some fairly significant investments in those areas, including for many areas that will fund continued operations for the types of homeless and housing efforts that the county and its partners in Deschutes County have launched in the last couple of years. So that'll be the second. Third area is going to be individual budget items. And to that, I'd say that what we keep hearing from the Ways and Means co-chairs, essentially, this is me paraphrasing them, is we don't have any money. We're broke. Now, of course, that's absolutely not true. We've had record revenue forecasts. We had a lot of money, including bonding allocation funds that were left over from last session that weren't expended. But the Ways and Means Committee has increasingly adopted a position of saying, whatever money we have, we should put it into the rainy day funds. We should not be spending money. Now, I certainly understand the need to balance the needs for future savings with other priorities, but hopefully there will be some balance because I think there are some areas of investment that if we don't invest, for instance, in community corrections, which is something Deschutes County supports, we'll end up spending more money down the road. So we'll be penny wise and pound foolish. Then a third category is categories are the individual bills. There's a list, and we could certainly go through it. What I'd say is what I've said to all of you in the past, which is Corey and I have two sets of ears and eyes, and we're watching 24/7. All of you are connected, either the commissioners through your work with AOC or your colleagues, the department heads through your fellow department heads, and associations that you're a part of. So if there are issues, if there are bills or LCs that you see that are not on the list that we circulated, please bring that to Jen and Whitney and Nick's attention. My attention will add that. It is going to be moving very quickly. And so any and all information that you can share with us, pass on, is going to help the cause at the end of the day. So I think I'll stop there. And Jen, I don't know how you want to proceed with going through the list I sent out, or just open it up for commissioner and department input on potential bills or things they've heard about.
Yeah, thanks, Doug, for that. I will defer to Commissioner Adair on that as she's chairing the meeting. We do have a couple of particular topics that some staff wanted to bring up. I know Eric Kropp had one particular issue, and I think Tom Kuhn flagged a legislative concept yesterday. But Commissioner Adair, do you want to go through the Excel spreadsheet list, or would you prefer to have department heads bring up topics as needed?
I'd actually like to hear from the department heads, but I would like to ask Doug something. Doug, is there any way we're going to get anything to get rid of junipers?
I think that it's very likely the legislature will not add any funding to that program. The soil and water conservation districts have all received their allocation from last year. Most of them have had some boots on the ground in the fall doing assessments. All but one have their maps done and are ready to move ahead once the spring thaw comes. There's a limited window of opportunity before it gets too dry. So I don't think we'll see any additional funding, although we've asked for small amounts of funding for monitoring for those programs. But 2025 may be another opportunity. And hopefully by then, the soil and water conservation districts have demonstrated some significant success.
I was able to buy a dozen 4x4 juniper posts from Levi's Sawmill here in La Pine a couple weeks ago, right as the snow came on, because I got a fence I could rebuild with them. But I made sure to ask for juniper, and sure enough, it's right here in our backyard at the sawmill in La Pine.
Okay.
That's-
So I think, Jen, you said Eric Kropp had something he wanted to bring up, and then Tom Kuhn. Eric, do you want to tell us?
Sure, thank you. Rick Russell at Mountain View Community Development, as we know, has developed the RV concept and has been pitching the idea to our local state legislators. The ask from Rick is $4 million from the state of Oregon. So he's trying to figure out if there's money available in this session for his project. So he's asking for county support. We don't really know, of course, the funding mechanism, whether or not, probably wouldn't come from an agency budget since we're in this short session. But sometimes at the end of a session, there's a Christmas tree bill and that funds lots of different projects. So that's a possibility. So we just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that Rick has been meeting with the local delegation and pitching his idea. He has a one-pager that summarizes his ask. So that's it.
I thought he was going to actually ask for 6 million. Did he change his mind and go back to 4?
I'll pull up his one-pager and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, great. Because yes, I did try and connecting with Senator Finley on that ask. All right. Okay, Tom Kuhn.
Can I before we move on from that, can I just ask Doug, there is this housing and homelessness package that's moving through the legislature. Are there opportunities, not necessarily to, get funding for a specific project, but are there opportunities to create, like a funding pool, even if it's competitive, for projects like, I wouldn't just call it an RV park, because the way that they're designing these sites, they're going to be very flexible to be able to use for, RV parking in the near term, but, in the long term, they could have mobile homes, they could have tiny homes on them. So this is it's both a shelter and a transitional housing project.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner, for that question. And that's a really good question. It appears at this point that there are 3 separate housing packages that the legislature will see. One is the governor's bill, and the governor announced this week that she'll only be submitting a single bill, and it's LC-19. It'll become a bill number here in a week or two. And that's a $400 million catch-all bill that includes many of the elements of House Bill 3414 from last year. So the HAPO, Housing Accountability Production Office, the requirement that cities must waive regulations for housing developers, an opportunity for cities to have a one-time up to 150 acre UGB expansion, and also potentially funding for various projects. For instance, there's money in her package for shelter operations and things of that nature. There are some opportunities in there for housing infrastructure. So that funding is in there, including kind of something that looks a lot like Representative Pam Marsh's revolving loan fund for infrastructure. So that's one. The second is LC 40, which appears like it'll be the Senate Housing Committee's bill, which is going to focus on moderate income housing. And then there's going to be a House package that Representative Dexter is working on. I think that all three of them will include pots of money for projects. And it strikes me that, and I've seen the one pager, actually I've talked to Rick about his proposal. I think that his proposal would fit nicely in with some of the concepts in any of those three funding packages. So my guess is at the end of the day, we end up with a bill that would allow him to apply for funding along those lines. And then, as Eric mentioned, at the end of most sessions, including short sessions, there tend to be funding allocations made either individually or kind of in a Christmas tree type of bill. So I think there's a very good chance that something like that would be eligible for funding in any of those three packages.
So if with that said, Eric, can we be communicating back to Rick Russell that he wants to make sure that, you know, he's creating his project will be eligible for some of these pots of funding that would be created by these various legislative vehicles?
Yeah, I'd be happy to get back to Rick on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe let him know that, you know, I'm guessing I'd be happy to. Possibly other commissioners would be happy to accompany him or, you know, join him for discussions with legislators as needed.
I could pass that along. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is a great effort, but this is an example of, hey, if we had land, we could do something for people. And I'm just pointing out that that's the same situation we are with building houses and campgrounds. If we had land, we could do something for people. So this is not much different than that, other than we're trying to do it under an emergency rule through a nonprofit. So it just gives me heartburn to think that, yeah, let's go do this, but let's resist all these other private property plays and hold the land use system at the highest esteem. So I'm just sharing my heartburn on that. Also, the city of Redmond, Core 3 in Oasis Village, in support of Rick Russell's project, has a capital ask to build out an intersection and some first couple hundred feet of the road to this location that Rick Russell wants to go to. And then the city of Redmond wants to, complete 21st Street, it's called. So there's another capital ask, priority-wise.
So how much does that ask?
It's like 1.8 million, which is like, I think, 60-something% of a project. City of Redmond already has 750,000 in it. Scott Aycock wrote it up the other day. It's just a 2-pager. You can see it. I don't have it right now, but the county's in because it says we've donated $50,000 worth of land, which is, I mean, this is a road. This is part of the whole south edge of the east side of Redmond, and the city of Redmond wants to put a road up there. So the 21st Street. So yeah, I'm just pointing out there's other asks in that area. And then also Heart of Oregon Corps wants money. Also, they have an ask, capital money for their campus, which is right around the corner from there, walking distance from the Oasis Village. So just pointing out there's other asks out there.
Okay, thank you. Eric, did you ever see what he was actually asking?
Yes, it's 3.98. What he calls phase 1 RV sites operational. And then there's another phase that says 2.5 million. And then it says phase 1 again, but it says phase 1 completion of community spaces.
Okay, so we should tell him to correct that if it should be phase 2.
I'm unclear if it should be phase 2 or if he's calling them two different projects, but there's phase 1 of one, and I'll clarify with him.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Tom Kuhn.
Yes, good morning. I added 2 items to the list. Both are EMS related, emergency medical services. And the first one is legislative concept 15. which would basically be called Oregon EMS Modernization, which is similar to what public health did at the state level. The state EMS system is pretty disorganized and also is not very uniform across the state. And so they're looking to really, over a period of like 5 or 6 years, get things more organized and have more infrastructure. And the reason I flag this one is this could have some implications on our local ASA in regards to different standards that they might be establishing. So I'll be watching this one very closely, but I do, after working with the state EMS, think this is something that is greatly needed. And also it can help address some of the workforce issues that we have with EMS, which is across the entire state. The second item I wanted to mention, I don't even think it's a legislative concept yet, but Lane County is creating a proposal called the Measure 110 Improvement Proposal, which would provide local and public health and behavioral health administrators timely access to ambulance service data related to ambulance transports. And the thing is, this would give county prevention staff alerts about suspected overdoses so that they could take action sooner than later, because often the data we receive is not very timely. So these are 2 things I add to the list that I think we should really keep a close eye on, and I'll be watching it through my role as the Oregon CLO vice chair. And that's all I had for my update.
And just to piggyback on Tom's last item, in our county, without a legislative or rule requirement, our hospital has agreed to start doing toxicology testing on people admitted for overdose in order to provide de-identified aggregate data to public health for our prevention efforts. And I believe, and Heather can speak to this maybe in more detail, we also have some agreements now with EMS to start sharing overdose data for our Cooper data platform. So we are doing this work locally by through goodwill and collaboration, but I would definitely support some requirements statewide to do it more comprehensively. Heather?
Yeah, I would just quickly add that by doing this at the statewide level, it ensures that every county has that, and it's not adding more burden to our local EMS providers.
Right.
Because right now they're kind of having to do it on their own. So this will just make it so we can have access at the local level for public health and mental health. And it's so we can have real-time data to be able to respond effectively, do targeted outreach and prevention strategies.
Okay, that's good to hear that we've worked out those arrangements so that we can actually know what's going on sooner in Deschutes County. But clearly, from what I'm seeing for the numbers, we need it statewide. So thank you for sharing that. Are there any other, Jen, are there any raised hands in the room?
Yeah, Doug has his hand raised.
Good. Okay, Doug.
Hi, Commissioner, thanks. I've got a question about these 2, which they kind of appear to be related, and it was confusing to me when I was looking at the LC and then also the Measure 110 bill. Obviously, they touch on some of the same issues, but is Lane County the sponsor behind both bills? And I looked at the AOC webpage, which made some mention of this in one of the reports from January 5th. But I didn't see who the sponsors were of either LC 15 or whatever LC this other proposal would be.
Yeah, I didn't have the information on the sponsors, but I'm pretty sure they're not related and that they are separate.
Separate, okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Alex Kyler over at Lane County. He can probably provide some of that information. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Jen, do we see anything?
I don't see any other raised hands, but we can give the department heads the opportunity to raise their hand if they have anything else they'd like to flag.
Yes, I do want to acknowledge, I think I saw Chris Doty was on it. Thank you, Chris. Your team's doing a really outstanding job from the lack of angry people that I have not heard from. So thank you very much. And the thank you notes. So yeah, appreciate challenging weather conditions.
Doing our best. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Doing
Commissioner
better than the
Chang,
best.
Commissioner
ahead.
Chang has his hand raised.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Commissioner Chang.
So earlier you asked for specific commissioner updates. I just wanted to let people know that those legislative concepts related to ODF wildfire suppression funding are rapidly evolving. I had a chance to meet with Commissioner Perkins from Hood River County and Senator Golden together online last week or earlier this week. And as many of you may have read, the $10 per tax lot across the entire state component of Senator Lieber's work group's proposal has been dropped. So it's not clear to me that they have a package that work group anymore, because that was a lot of money. I think it was close to $20 million. Senator Golden, during that discussion with Commissioner Perkins, he indicated he was really concerned about real estate investment entity, legal entities, REITs, and timber investment management organizations, essentially large out-of-state investment-oriented landholders who aren't necessarily interested in timber management. They might be, but he was really concerned that these entities would be getting essentially a fee or tax break from Senator Lieber's proposal, and he thought that addressing that was fundamental to solving the funding issue challenge for ODF. So he was really going to be sticking to his guns on calling for a solution to that first before any other revenue mechanisms are put forward. The implications for us in Deschutes County are that you remove that $10 per property fee. It means that Deschutes County, many fewer landowners in Deschutes County will have to pay something for ODF protection capacity that's only used on specific properties, and it'll also mean that the golden issue, I think, affects about these investment oriented real estate holdings. I think it really only affects the Shanda asset management properties in the county. So the implications for us are not very significant either way, I don't think.
Thank you for that. Okay, Janice, is your hand raised?
Yeah. A couple of other things that I'm going to hope that we're keeping our eye on. One is legislative concept 115 turned into a bill. It's House Bill 4092. And I'm a little confused on the spreadsheet I got from Jen. I think that bill does two things. One is establish ongoing work to address administrative burden, which is affecting the behavioral health workforce, and then also costing out the real cost of the behavioral health workforce and system. So I think both concepts will be covered in that particular piece of legislation. So that's one. The other thing to keep an eye on is
Janice,
package. Yeah.
Who's the sponsor of that bill?
Rep Nose.
Okay, thank you.
And then another one that is being sponsored by, I believe, Rep Nose and AOCMHP is a $7.5 million package to fund aid and assist at the level necessary to cover the cost. So there's a one-pager that I think I shared with Doug. He can share with this group if you're interested. I don't know that a bill number has been assigned yet, and Doug will know more about that. But that would be of significant interest because you all know that we've really clogged the hospital system with the aid and assist population. And then the last thing is we're going to want to keep talking about the hot topic of Measure 110 reform and what that really looks like, and whether there's any actual meaningful resources attached to do the work they're suggesting to do if they in fact recriminalize low-level possession of narcotics or other illegal substances. So if they only do A and they do not do B, we will be back where we started and perhaps in worse shape. And I know that that's a topic people have different views on, but backwards steps are not necessarily going to help this situation get better from our perspective. So we're happy to provide input into that if asked. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice.
And Doug has his hand raised.
Doug.
Yeah, Commissioner and Janice, I'll just point out that will be the the elephant in the room this session. The Republicans have put out a very detailed plan. One of the interesting things about comparing what the Addictions Committee chairs and co-chairs have put out versus what the Republican caucus has put out is that there are areas of alignment. For instance, both proposals envision investing at least the same amount in treatment and resources for treatment and treatment services as the ballot measure 110 originally envisioned, sometimes more. And the second thing that they both encompass is expungement after completion of treatment, which I'm a little surprised that both sides agree on that, but that appears to be another area of agreement. Where they don't appear to agree is what level of misdemeanor is provided. So the Republican package has misdemeanor A, and the co-chair's proposal has misdemeanor C. So that'll be
B is in the middle. I can see that coming.
Could be a B, or maybe both sides stick to their guns and the voters decide. I don't know. Good question. But I would be very, go ahead.
What is the LOC 10 proposal package though? Doesn't it say a misdemeanor A? Oh, and now I can't hear you.
There we go. Yeah, Commissioner, I believe that the AOC, LOC, sheriffs, police chiefs did propose an A-level misdemeanor with the opportunity to negotiate it down, and that was their justification, is that if you start at A, you can always go down, but if the ceiling is C, you can't negotiate it up during a court decision-making or prosecutorial decision-making process. So I think that'll be one of the significant differences between the two sides. And I will say that the ballot measure 110 advocates, so the original coalition that supported ballot measure 110, is very active in the Capitol and has a very aggressive lobbying campaign going on to the legislature saying, don't change anything. There should be no changes in ballot measure 110. I don't view that as likely to occur, but that's there's a large number of people organized and well-funded in the state that are arguing no changes whatsoever. So we'll see.
Yeah, and some of those people, I believe, are on the committee, and they've got dual points of reference. So yes, and they've got lots of money.
One last thing that's the difference between the two proposals. The Republican proposal eliminates the Oregon Health Authority public advisory body that has been involved in the decision-making of how to circulate resources to communities, and instead gives all that authority to the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission. So that's another major change between the two proposals.
And Doug, since you've been in this field for so long, is that a good group, the Alcohol and Drug Policy people?
Well, it's been kind of a benign group with very little authority. Dr. Reginald Richardson was the chair of the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission for 5 or 6 years. He was replaced last year by the governor. Annalise Dolph is now the commissioner. She comes out of a public health background, both working, I think, in Multnomah County and then working for OHA, and then as the governor's staff. She's very sharp, but the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission is not. It's been a research and reporting type of organization rather than an action-oriented organization. But it wasn't. A lot of people at the very beginning of this process argued that since we had an existing commission, we should have used the existing commission instead of creating a brand new organization. But the ballot measure kind of pushed us in creating this new group that included an awful lot of public health advocates and activists and community members, people who hadn't been involved in budget decision making in the past. Janice, I see you've got your hand up too.
Yeah, I think that the group that rolled out Measure 110, it's such a long name, I always forget the acronym, sorry, really had very little administrative support or training in how to roll out a $300 million package of funding to multiple entities. And so they've taken a bit of a bad rap as a result of the lack of administrative support that they received, frankly, from the Oregon Health Authority for whatever reason. Annalise Dolph is very solid and knows this subject. And if she's involved in the Alcohol and Drug Commission and is helping guide the work, I would have a lot of confidence in that. The loss would be the people with lived experience with addiction who did help drive some important conversations and often haven't been at the table. So I do think some combination of that sort of effective governing administrative entity and some meaningful way to include the voice of people with experience would be the ideal. And again, that said, a lot of the folks at the table were the people that had the worst experience, and often they're not asking the folks that have been helped and served well in the system. So that's always been a concern with consumer voice. Just a thought about what went wrong there from my perspective and probably many of my peers.
Thank you, Janice, for that. I'm glad to know that you have a lot of confidence in the new head from Dr. Richard that took over from Dr. Richardson. So that's good to hear. So we'll have to see what kind of compromises happen, or if there are any, right, Doug?
And Commissioner, we have Heather Keisner has her hand raised as well.
Oh, Heather, please.
Yeah, Doug, I just have a quick question around, is there any discussions happening around with Measure 110 around prevention dollars being included, like kind of more upstream prevention? I know there's a lot of talk, treatment and harm reduction, but just wondering about prevention.
Yeah, Heather, thanks for that question. There are discussions about those funding areas. I mean, there are a couple things going on right now in the behavioral health prevention world. Number one is that there are a variety of pots of money that have been unallocated. Three in particular, and I have a list here someplace that I can't see right away. But there are 3 pots of money that are available for behavioral health types of programs. And the rumor is that at the very beginning of February, the governor's going to announce a funding package that is based on an RFI that the OHA put out last month, asking for ideas for shovel-ready projects regarding behavioral health treatment facilities, sobering centers, treatment facilities, etc. So stay tuned on that. So that's one, which isn't quite a direct response to your question. The second part of this is that there has been quite a bit of discussion about the significant lack of resources for youth and adolescents in this area. That is one of the huge areas that are left uncovered even after the investments that we've made in the last 12 months. And putting on my child welfare youth provider hats, JBAR-J is one of our members. I think you can ask JBAR-J or anyone else, if you have a kid who is in recovery or needs treatment supports, how easy is it to get them supports? And the answer is going to be it's next to impossible in many cases. So I think there will be a focus on those type of efforts, and that really is an upstream. If you stop drug use earlier on, the better. So that's another area. And then the second is just we don't know yet what the legislature is going to come up with as far as dollars associated with behavioral health and ballot measure 110 reform. We know kind of the area in housing is somewhere $400 million or less. That's what the governor is asking for. She started out asking for $600 million. She's down to $400 million. You know, so somewhere in that $300 to $400 million for housing, we think will probably be allocated, but we don't know how much and where the money will be allocated for behavioral health, especially upstream treatment. But I do think that there's a recognition that those programs are important. So I've just given you a very long-winded answer to your short question, but hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on it.
Doug, I know this is important to you too. I don't know if you saw the OPB article written by Emily Green about Oregon drug use prevention programs for kids are not science-backed. Did you happen to see that? It was just recently. This I printed it out the 17th, but it's doesn't mention Deschutes County in our programs because I know we do a lot of things here, but it's, you know, it says it's totally inadequate and our kids are really being harmed by the lack of education.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I'll definitely look that up. That'd be good.
Okay, thank you. Any more raised hands? Jen, do you see anything?
I do not.
Okay. Sarah Crosswhite, is there anything, Sarah, you want to bring up?
Nope, I don't have anything. Thank you for checking.
Oh, Sarah, I do have a question. I remember when I was at the last meeting, maybe 2 months ago, you said that we were receiving fewer calls, but the call challenge was greater. Is that still what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's so we just had our user board this week and our calls are down to like 700, which is relatively normal for the winter time. They drop down, but the type of calls are still pretty wild. Just an increase of very different calls than the typical theft and, non-injury crash, that type of stuff. It's been really busy and some challenging calls for our staff.
Is there anything you feel like we need to help address that issue besides more mental health help?
That's probably the big one, but I mean, I think the other is just, I don't really think there's much that can do that. We've had peer support that's reaching out for our people just for the volume and types of the calls that we're experiencing. But beyond that, I'm not really sure if there's a solution.
Okay. Thank you so much. Christy, can you update us at all over the property tax issue? Is there anything that's going to be happening in the legislature, or where are we going to see that happen?
Good morning, Commissioner Dare and commissioners and department heads. So yeah, there's a bill that's going to be, I believe, sponsored by Senator Conrad. And that's just related to outlining new procedures on how counties would then process proceeds from tax foreclosed properties. I participated in a presentation last week to the the Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we're just basically trying to provide them information and educate them on what the procedures currently look like, and then hopefully then when they're helping to educate others on that forthcoming bill, it'll just help provide additional information and help others have that understanding. So we should be seeing a bill, to my understanding. I'm not really sure where it's in the process. I haven't dug into that very deep, but we should see something coming soon.
Okay, thank you for that. And Doug, if you want to pull that up, I don't know if that's something you've been following.
Yeah, I have it on our list to watch for an LC, and I wasn't sure which committee it was in. So knowing it was in House Judiciary, I see that they have 4 LCs listed. So we'll go through these. I've also seen it on one of the AOC meetings from January 5th, kind of in general terms. So Christy, if you have any additional information, send it our way.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that Tim Brunel's on. Brunel, Tim, is there anything you'd like to bring up?
No, there's nothing at this point.
Okay, how's our new landfill location doing? When are we going to know?
Probably 2 more months. We'll have some recommendations coming.
In March, then you're saying?
March or April, depending
Okay.
on the deliberations of the SWAC. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Chris Doty, I see you're on the screen. Is there anything you want to bring up?
Not quite yet. There's a couple bills that the AOC has in front of them with regards to permit fee authority for road departments to basically charge utility companies fees for plan review and inspection when they locate utilities in the rights of way. That's been a bill that we talk about every session, and is gradually, hopefully, gaining a little bit of momentum. So that's one of AOC's, I think, target bills out of transportation. I don't have a number or a concept on top of my head on that.
Oh, say, Chris, could I ask you a question then? I was told that the state ODOT normally funds the cities, and they stopped doing that. I mean, it was like you could see the line when you drove 126. They did a fabulous job on cleaning 126. When you got to Redmond, it was a bit of a mess. And somebody said, "Oh, well, ODOT quit funding the cities." Is that true?
No, they still maintain, their system is that whatever their system is through a municipality, they have the responsibility to maintain it. Inside cities, you have a lot more urban traffic, and so traffic can kind of beat that snow into the ground and create ice and rutting and stuff like that. So the conditions sometimes look different, only because there's traffic, has had its impact on snow and ice. But they're doing the best they can.
I heard how wonderful the roads were in Redmond today. They've sanded them.
Yeah, Redmond wasn't too bad.
Okay, well, that's what I'm hearing because they have something going on tonight. So thank you. Thank you for your update. Just wondering. Are there any other raised hands?
There are
Dee-
not, Commissioner.
Okay. Oh, DV, is there anything you want to update us on?
Good morning, Commissioner. Others. No, we're just watching, particularly obviously Measure 110 reform, repeal conversations, as well as the behavioral health funding stuff. I will just plug that the Juvenile Association is definitely looking at, impacts on the juvenile side for both of those areas of funding, which tend to be afterthoughts. So it's true, as a prevention measure, it's very, very important. And as an intervention for those young people, I mean, that's important. So I appreciate that. We're watching it. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and there was, I noticed, Commissioner and DV, that there was an AOC, I think AOC sponsored youth behavioral health summit that was, I think, taking place today in Salem. I didn't have the details on that, so I know AOC is focusing in on this issue.
Oh, Doug, do you happen to know a number on shovel-ready projects? What is the state talking about for behavioral health?
No, in fact, of the 3 pots of money that I was able to dig up yesterday, the only amount that I knew of for sure was $15 million remaining from a pot of money for behavioral health facilities from a year ago. The other 2 pots of money, I don't know the amount. There was a youth behavioral health treatment facilities package that was released by the governor 2 weeks ago. That was $25 million. And I believe that JBRJ got a small amount of money out of that. The others were Looking Glass Family and Community Services in Eugene, Parrot Creek in Clackamas County, and Trillium got money. And then I think there was one in Baker City or LeGrand. So I think 5 different organizations got some funding for youth child welfare programs or facilities.
I thought one of them went to Morrow County. Did I remember wrong?
Could have been Morrow County instead of Baker, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I was thinking like, well, where are they going to do that? In Boardman? Yes, you never know. So, okay. All right. So that was 25 million. I don't remember if I saw J Bar J on that list or not. Janice, do you remember? Did J Bar J get anything there?
I don't know. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll
aware.
double check and
Yeah.
I'll double check and have that for the next meeting, Commissioner.
okay, because I don't remember seeing them either in that list, but I could have missed it. All righty. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Chang, did you want to say anything at this time before we close our meeting?
Nope.
Commissioner DeBonne?
My only thought is trying to make a connection with our, Deschutes County Associated Legislators at one of these meetings possibly. So I know it's a short session, but just a kind of a goal, be able to hear from or talk to some of the legislators.
Yeah, we have, and Whitney, jump in here. I think we've scheduled them for 2 or 3 of our Friday meetings. So we didn't include them for all of them. We wanted to kind of have a couple meetings to get our ducks in a row and get our lists ready. But Whitney, I'm not sure if next week.
I did jump in on that. We invited them
Okay.
for 3 meetings. They're going to join our next meeting on the 26th. And then they've also been invited for February 9th and February 23rd.
Great. Just to kind of hear the tone and the thoughts and if there's anything else that they know that's going on.
Okay, and Doug, you think some of them might be in Salem next Friday then?
I think some of the Valley legislators are more likely to be actually in Salem in their offices, but I think they're all working these days. So they're easier to get a hold of probably in the district and by Zoom than in Salem.
Nobody was ever there on Fridays when I was there last year. And that wasn't the short session. So, well, very few, right? Very few people.
Yeah, I think during the short session, they do tend to work all 5 days, sometimes 6. So
Okay.
they've got a lot to do. I mean, just as an example, so if a bill's a House bill and gets introduced, let's say in the House Judiciary Committee or the House Behavioral Health and Healthcare Committee, it has 8 days to be heard and to be work sessioned and to get out of the committee. So, and that's because they've got to. Then it has to go to the floor and it has to go to the other side or go to Ways and Means. And that takes, another certain amount of time. So 8 days from the first day of the session to pass out of the committee of origin. So that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Okay, great.
Commissioner, the last thing I'd say before we end the call is just to the department heads, as you hear of LCs and LCs turning into numbers, so the people who know what the bill number will be for an LC are only the bill sponsor or who the bill sponsor shares that with until the first day of the session when the whole list pops up on OLIS. So if you hear that LC 19 has become House Bill, 4072 or 4011 or 4001, whatever it is, let the administrative team of Jen, Nick, and Whitney and myself know if you hear that. And then we can begin plugging this in. And this initial Excel spreadsheet will become a formal legislative tracking list through Bill Tracker like we've done in the past. But of course, again, we can't populate that list until the bills go live on OLIS because that's all connected.
Great. All right.
Commissioner Dare, just one last quick comment, just to share with the board on our totally different topic. As per the email I sent yesterday, various departments and offices are operating at different hours based on their locations, conditions, staffing, services, everything. So everybody's taking safety first while continuing to provide full services to our community. So just to let you know that one office may be closed and another may be open at various times for various purposes. And just hope everybody's safe out there today. And I just have to point out Lee Randall's attire as we wrap up. Thanks.
Point out Lee Randall. What he's wearing? Attire, right? Lee, what are you wearing? Lee, would you like
Go
to say?
Lions, it's been 31 years, so we're back.
Oh,
Right on, yay!
oh, Lee, you're
Sorry to change the tone. I apologize.
No. I'm glad that you're very patient. 31 years is a long time to wait. Okay, oh, you are ready. All right, well, Go Lions then. All right, guys, giving you back 4 minutes. Stay safe out there and thank you all for joining us.